Hi my friends, I'm Corey and welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to review something I've been looking forward to for a long time. Written by Michael Lovejoy and illustrated by Peter Johnston, I present you Burrows Badgers Second Edition. If you've been around here for a bit, you probably know how much I appreciate games that feel personal, where the rules support storytelling and the miniatures have character. And Burrows Badger is exactly that kind of game. I've also did a review of the first edition of the game back then, and this new second edition gives us even more to explore. Before we go on, I would like to tell you that this isn't technically a sponsor video, but I did receive a review copy of the rulebook from Osprey Game with no obligation attached, so be assured that these are going to be my honest opinions. What follows is a genuine look at what this second edition brings to the table, along with a quick overview of what the game is, what you need to play, and what kind of stories it lets you tell. So without further ado, let us begin. Burrows Badger is a narrative skirmish game. That means that you're not commanding big armies or running competitive matches. Instead, you lead a small group of animal characters, each one with a name and unique abilities, through a series of missions and story-driven encounters. The game is built around storytelling. Every model has a role to play, and their successes, failure, injuries, and triumphs all becomes part of an ongoing tale. It's a game where a single die roll can turn into a dramatic moment, and where the terrain on the table shape the story just as much as the rules do. The mechanics of the game are simple at its core, but layer enough to reward clever positioning, good planning, and a little bit of luck. It's not about winning in the traditional sense, it's about what happens along the way. You know, the old story of the reward is the journey, not the arrival, whatever. You understood what I meant. But what do you need to play Burrows Badgers? Well, to play Burrows Badgers, you don't need a lot to get started. Typical games involve just 4 to 6 miniatures per player. So it's easy to build a warband and just jump in. Oatswo Miniatures produces a fantastic range of sculpts full of charm and details that I deeply love. But you can also use miniatures from other sources, like the Denizens of the Darkwood, for example, from Northumbrian Tin Soldiers, or the more classic Games Workshop Skaven, or even 3D print your model if you prefer. You also need a full set of polyhedral dice, d4s through d20s, because the game's stats are tied to different dice types. That adds a nice bit of asymmetry to each character. One might roll a d10 for strength, while another rolls a d6 for nimbleness. It makes every animal feel very distinct. You will also need a table, and the game is designed for a 3 by 3 foot play area, though that's just a starting point in my opinion. A dense vertical table filled with buildings, rocks and foliage brings the game to life, because, well, flying and climbing creatures love a table with elevation, while stealthy type thrives in shadowy corners and narrow alleyways. But let's focus a little bit more about the physical copy of the book. Now, the second edition rulebook is a 272-page hardcover that includes everything you need: full rules, lore, campaign system, magic abilities, and a whole suite of mechanics. It's thoroughly structured and beautifully presented, with a parchment-style layout and full color art throughout, which it's beautiful, and also the illustrations are simply amazing. I love every single one of them. What stands out about this edition is how it refines the original. There are small but meaningful improvements across the board. Rules have been clarified, and there are new abilities, spells, species, allegiance, and much more that expand your tactical options. It's also gorgeous with its content. The book offers campaign rules and a large list of skills and traits. It almost feels like a toolbox and not just a rulebook, and thanks to its tone, is also a pleasure to read. Let's talk about the world of Burrows Badger. The land of Burrows Badger is called Albion. It's a place of wide-swept hills, ruined castle, dense forest, and quaint villages, populated entirely by anthropomorphic animals. The game is set in the year 799, during a time of political turmoil. The old king is gone, mysterious power are rising, and new alliances are forming in his absence. In the north, the fractured kingdom of Northumbria clings to tradition and power. In the south, the free beasts of Merse seek freedom from noble rule, creating a patchwork of smaller factions, warbands, and communities. It's a wars that feel grounded, but still magical in the right ways. Familiar, yet different enough to spark imagination. Your warband exists in this world. Whether they are mercenaries, outcasts, rebels, or guardians of old lore, the setting gives you space to explore stories of loyalty, betrayal, and adventure. It's not a parody or a satire, it's earnest fantasy with a lot of heart. So, that being said, who is this game for? Well, personally, Burrows Badgers is for players who care more about narrative than competition. If you like building character with backstories, painting unique miniatures, and playing games where something memorable always happen, this is the game for you. It's perfect for those people who, like me, enjoy slower paced campaign style play, where your warbands grows, change, and sometimes suffer real consequences over time. And if you're someone who enjoys crafting terrain or building a small immersive table, the game gives you a lot of reason to do just that. It's not built for tournaments or balance-obsessed player, but that's not a weakness. It's just know what it wants to be, a simple, story-driven miniature skirmish game full of personality and charm. So this is the basic introduction of the game, but what about creating a warband? Now that we know what kind of game Burrows Badgers is, let's take a look at how to actually build a warband. This is one of the most enjoyable parts of the game. Your warband isn't just a collection of miniatures personally, it's your crew, your story, your little group of heroes or misfits. Every warband starts with 350 pennies, the in-game currency used to recruit and equip your members. At the back of the rulebook, you'll find the official warband roster, which help you keep track of your models, stats, skills, gear, names, and so on. The first step in creating your warband is choosing an allegiance. This is more than just a label. It defines the political and ideological stance of your warband and shapes the kind of abilities and upgrades they can access. There are 10 allegiances to choose from: Royalist, Rogue, Free Beast, Kindred, Witch Hunters, Wildling, Arcane Conclave, Undead, Routiers, and Hillfolk. Each one has a distinct flavor and a few mechanical consequences, which helps make each warband feel unique right from the start. Once you've picked your allegiance, your warband will start with a den. Think of it as your home base or headquarters. During a campaign, your den can be upgraded with new features, and your allegiance determines which type of upgrades are available to you. From there, it's time to recruit your members. A warband must have at least 2 members, but no more than 10, and each character costs a certain number of pennies to hire, depending on their species and size. And you also need to budget for weapons, armor, and gear. The world of Burrows Badgers is home to a huge variety of animal species. Mechanically, they're divided into 4 sizes. Small and medium beast, which go on a 30mm basis, large beast using 40mm basis, and massive beast, which need 50mm basis. Each species has its own stat profile and come with unique strengths and traits. For example, a mole will feel very different from a rabbit, and a badger won't play anything like a hawk or a otter. Every model is defined by 9 core stats: move, how fast you are, strike and block for melee combat, range for attack at a distance, nimbleness, concealment and awareness, covering agility, stealth and perception, fortitude for willpower, determination and courage, and finally presence, which affect command, morale, or generally to the overall influence the characters have around them. Each stat is represented by a different type of die, from a d4 to a d12. That's right, some creatures roll a d4 for fortitude, other a d10. And that simple mechanic allows for every beast a clear identity on the table. Once your team is assembled, you choose one model to be your leader. because every warband needs one. They get a bonus skill and get to upgrade one of their stats by increasing the die size. Like for example, say from a D6 to a D8. You also assign a second in command who gains a bonus skill, but no stats increase. The rest of your warband are regular members, but each one still brings something valuable to the group. Keep also in mind that there are limitations when it comes to size. For example, you can have more than 8 large models and no more than 6 massive ones. So even if you want to field an army of towering badgers, there are built-in checks to keep things balanced. And yes, any model can be a magic user, but there's a trade-off. For every spell a character learns, they gain a level on the delicate and weak traits, meaning they'll be more fragile in physical combat. It's a clever system that adds flavor and keeps things fair basically, because if you spend your time studying scrolls instead of training with a sword, well, you're not probably built for a fist fight. Or a sword fight, I guess. And anyway, you're a nerd. Now that we have built our furry little warband, it's time to see them in action. So let's talk about how the game actually works. Don't worry, it's not overly complicated, but it's full of clever little mechanics that make every decision feel meaningful. The core of Burrows Badgers system is something called roll off. Almost everything your model tried to do, attacking, dodging, casting, spell, climbing ladders, relies on this. It works like this. You pick the stat that fits the action, roll your dice, add any bonuses or penalties, and that's your total. If there's an opposing model involved, they do the same. You then subtract the defender's total from your total, and the results tell you how successful the action was. The bigger the number, the better the outcome. Simple, right? Now, Burrows Badgers spice things up with 2 extra twists: perfect and disastrous rolls. A perfect is when you roll the highest number on your die, like a 6 on a D6, a 12 on a D12, and so on. When that happens, you add a big old +7 to your total. So even the weakest shrew with a butter knife can take down a hulking badger if the dice smile on them. On the other hand, if you roll a 1, that's a disastrous roll. Not only does it usually mean failure, but also grants your model a fate point. Those are little tokens that let you re-roll, activate special powers, or even size the initiative. So even your mistakes might open up opportunities later, and I love that. Now let's talk about how a game turn works. Each round starts with the initiative phase. Both players choose a model and roll off using its nimbleness stat. The winner gets to activate that model first, and from there, players alternate activating their models one by one until everyone has had their turn. Each model gets to perform 2 actions on their activation, so let's go through those. There are 11 different actions your model can take. Some are straightforward, others a bit more situational, but together they offer lots of tactical choices. Focus. This is basically a moment of deep concentration. The model doesn't do anything right away, but when it performs its next action, whether it's a strike, spell, or even a jump, it gets +2 to all its stat dice roll. Move. This one's easy, you just move the model a number of inches equal to its move stat. Up ladder, use nimbleness. In difficult terrain, the distance is still based on the roll, but you might be slowed down. No roll required unless terrain gets tricky. Barge, the burly option. If your model is the same size or bigger than the enemy model, it can try to barge them. It works like a move, except it always counts as difficult terrain. If you make it to base contact, the enemy gets shoved back or on its size 2 inches. If not, you just stumble forward awkwardly. Charge. Another aggressive move and a classic one. You pick a target, make your move, and if you reach base contact, bam, you get a free attack. And if you move more than 3 inches, you also get +2 to your strike roll. Same movement rule as Barge. It's gamble, but a potentially devastating one. Sneak. Want to be stealthy? Take the sneak action. As long as no enemy is within 2 inches, your model can tiptoe around, gaining -2 to be hit by shooting, or spells if it's more than 6 inches away. While sneaking, your model can also use concealment instead of block to defend, simply because it's harder to hit what you can see. Attack. The classic close combat option. If your model is in base contact with an enemy, you can attack. Roll strike, they roll block. If your result beats their, you deal damage equal to the difference. Some models can boost this with strong skill, while others might reduce it with the tough skill. Guard. Your model take a defensive stance, preparing for incoming attacks. All defend rolls from the rest of the turn gets a +2 bonus. Handy when you're holding an objective or just waiting for trouble. Shoot. Time for the archers to shrine, or quarrelers, or pistoliers, whatever. As long as the shooter isn't within 2 inches of an enemy and has line of sight to the target, they can let loose. If they've only got partial line of sight, they get a -2 penalty. Roll range, defender rolls nimbleness. If you beat their total, the damage works the same as in melee. Cast. Spells in Burrows and Badgers are fun, flavorful, and tied to magical archetype. To cast a spell, the model rolls either Presence or Fortitude, depending on their archetype. Compare it to the spell's difficulty, beat it and the spell goes off. Some spells need line of sight or have range limitation, and many requires you to make additional rolls off for damage or effects. Whatever you're blasting, buffing, or summoning, spellcasting adds a lot of variety to the game. Search. This one's great for narrative scenarios. You can use it to find sneaky hidden enemies or to look for loot, clues, or other objective markers, depending on the mission. The difficulty depends on the situation, and personally, it usually feels like a mini side quest mid-battle. Interact. Finally, the catch-all action. Some equipment or spells require a model to interact in order to use or prepare them. Levers, buttons, weird magical artifact. If something needs fiddling with, this is the action to use. And that's the basic rhythm of the game. Activate a model, pick 2 actions, roll some dice, hope for perfect, curse the disastrous, and try to outmaneuver your opponent. It's a system that feels fast but deliberate, lighthearted but smart. And every time you play, something unexpected is bound to happen. At least this is my experience. I simply loved the first edition of Burrows and Badgers, and with this second edition, the creators have done an incredible job of building on what made the game special. The rulebook is clever and more generous, the worlds feel more lived in, and the new content, like magical archetypes, updated spell list, new animal species, and even wild additions like cannons and bombards, bring more tool for storytelling and creativity. There's so much in this book I couldn't cover today without turning this video into a feature-length movie, but trust me, it's a rich, lovingly crafted game that rewards imagination and playfulness. Whether you're a painter, a storyteller, or someone who just wants to roll some dice with a gang of woodlands adventurers, Burrows and Badgers deserve a spot on your shelves. And definitely a few cozy sessions on your table. Whew, okay, I guess that's all for Burrows and Badgers Second Edition. Let me know what you think about this game down in the comments, my friend. If you have ever played the first edition or you just heard about this beautiful game with my video, I really suggest you try it out because it's an amazing tabletop war game. Again, this is not technically a sponsored video, but Offspray Game sent me the hardcover book to review, and I was overjoyed, to say the least. And if you would like to buy it, I will leave a link to the Offspray Game website down in the description, with also a link to support the channel with donation if you would like to do that. And also, leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos in the future. This was actually my very first kind of sponsored video where someone actually sent me their product for free, and I don't know, to me this is just a great achievement for me. This so I don't know. Thank you very much, Osprey Game, for sending me the rule books to review, and I would love to review more in the future, so keep sending them, please. Anyway, thank you, my friends. I'm Corey, and I really hope to see you the next time. Ciao ciao.